Hello, fellow grievers. Welcome to the Big Heart Little Grief podcast, where I talk about all things grief. Clues in the name. I got a new microphone, so I'm really excited to use it. I got a new background, so I'm really excited to use that too. I am really struggling to record this episode because it feels like a vulnerable episode to make, and also I worry that I'm always talking about this topic. The topic is love and romance and, relationships. But anywho, I'll think about that later. The title of this episode is called Refinding What I Love and Overcoming My Addiction to Romantic Relationships. Since I was 15, I have been in and out of relationships, stemming from a year to 2 years to 6 months to 8 months to 3 months. I've been in relationships with people that I haven't even met in person. I've been in talking stages, and recently I'd started seeing someone from a dating app, and we had quite a few dates together. We were seeing each other for a month. It was really good, it was really healthy, it felt really natural. He was a lovely, lovely person, really, kind and funny, and he had very good communication. But I decided to stop seeing him, like, before he asked me to be his girlfriend because of quite a few reasons. And these were reasons he didn't do anything to change my feelings towards being in a relationship. He wasn't the issue. It was myself that was the issue, and the cycle that I've put myself in ever since I began seeing people and dating people and being in relationships. And I think this negative cycle of not being able to be on my own and constantly wanting a boyfriend literally comes from, and this is like not an excuse, but I think it does stem from trauma from my childhood. Surprise, surprise. And it stems from feeling like I wasn't the first choice, feeling like I wasn't anyone's choice. Um, like I struggled with friendship groups in secondary school and primary school. I never felt like I was really a part of something. I still don't really feel like that now. I always kind of feel like the odd one out, and it just validated my feelings so much to be chosen by someone, for someone to be like, I want to be with her, I want to love her, I want to give her gifts, I want to spend time with her. It just validated the negative feelings I had about myself, as in, it made me feel better about myself because someone was choosing me. And I think that's what I have to recognize is, do I want to be with this person because I really like this person, or do I want to be with them because they are choosing me? And this isn't like for all of my relationships. I, you know, for a couple of my relationships, I definitely wanted to be with that person because I liked them. And then I think for others, it might have been because I wanted them to choose me. And I think it was a little bit with this guy that I was seeing recently. I wanted him to choose me, and that wasn't the right, it's not the right way to start a relationship, if you know what I mean. I felt myself becoming so anxious and just really putting this person on a pedestal like I do every time. And this is not his fault in any way. This is completely something that I did in my own brain. But it was like, I would say, maybe I'm not the right girl for him. Maybe he wants this girl or this girl, or, and I would sort of tell myself that he would want something different and want someone different that looks nothing like me, has a completely different personality. And I just shower myself in this shame all the time because that's all I've ever done. And then what I'd do next is I'd then look to him for validation. I'd say, "Do you think we're compatible? You know, do you think I'm pretty? Compliment me." And I was just begging for this to be seen by this person. And it just really wasn't healthy in the end. And only now, you know, I've seen quite a few people, but this person, like, I decided to recognize the pattern, recognize the cycle, and put an end to it, you know? Stop the pattern of finding someone, you know, after not long being out of a previous relationship just because I want to be seen, I want to be heard, because I didn't feel like that growing up. I, when my dad died, this kind of like blew up this validation from men. You know, I've always struggled with it. I've always had implications with it ever since I started secondary school, you know. It was just always something that I had an issue with. And, you know, I would go online and I would do things online to get that validation, to get that gratification that I was important. And then I would, you know, go and find relationships that really didn't fulfill me because I just wanted to be with someone and I wanted someone to choose me. And I'm 20 now, and I want to make sure that I am learning from these mistakes that I'm making, and also that I'm now strong enough to validate myself, you know? I don't need someone else to do it. I can do it myself. I can find that strength and I can change the narrative of what I've been told for many, many years of my life. I am actually important. I do deserve, you know, unconditional love. I am a good person. I do try my best at all times in everything I do. And I spoke about this in a previous episode about self sabotage and telling yourself that you're just like shit at everything and you know, you kind of create a narrative, a negative narrative for yourself, and you start to believe it. And this is what I did with this guy that I was seeing recently. And I just remember thinking, like, this isn't good, like, this isn't healthy. Because before I was seeing him, there was a moment in time where I was just like by myself for a little bit. And I was really good with my anxiety and my well being. I was really looking after myself. And then I just fall into the pattern again because I can't be by myself for too long. So, yes, I decided to stop seeing him. And I was really sad. And I wondered if it was the right decision. And at first, I actually didn't feel like it was the right decision. You know, I went back on it and I messaged him and I said, "How are you feeling about it?" Um, I don't know if it was the right decision. And the universe was protecting me and also protecting him because he replied with a very lovely message, but he said that we shouldn't carry this on if I was having doubts this early on. And I completely agree with everything he said. But I remember I was in London that weekend. This was last weekend actually. And I was in a Hollister and I cried in the Hollister. But I was reaching out to him because I'd gone on this trip to London by myself and I felt so incredibly lonely. And I couldn't pinpoint whether that loneliness was just general or whether it was because I missed him and the person he was And I think I get the two mixed up quite often. So that's when I messaged him and he came back with the response, which I'm glad that that was what his response was, because now I've had a couple of days away from it. It's like that was the good decision. That was a good decision. When I was in London, I experienced a spiritual personality shift sort of thing. And I feel like whenever I go traveling, I always experience something in my soul changes for the better. I really recommend traveling because it just, yeah, anywhere, like, I don't know, go down the road. No, anyway, like, I feel like I just have really good experiences whenever I go traveling. Like when I was on my way to London, I got the bus to my city centre, and there was a woman on the bus and we got chatting, and she was going on a family holiday, and it was just, really positive, and I felt really nice inside. And I felt the way I did when I went to Amsterdam in April, just like a lightness and a good feeling, and it was positive, and good things are gonna come from this. And then I went to London and I checked into my hotel and I went to Battersea Park, and it was so lovely. Like, it was really nice. It was so busy. There was an event on, and there were loads of group of friends, like couples everywhere. And I was visiting London for the first time by myself, and I felt really lonely. I really felt lonely. I felt sad and lonely, and had like a pizza and an Aperol spritz in a cafe, and it was like £30, and I was like, "What the hell?" Um, but I got through it. You know, I sat with those feelings. I ate my pizza on my own, and I did it. And then I went back to my hotel. I still felt, lonely. I watched The Simpsons on the TV, and then I went to bed. The next day I went to Tate Modern, and that was like the most wonderful experience ever. I went to the Tracy Emin A Second Life exhibition. It was amazing. No words to explain. She's a wonderful artist, and I have always admired her ever since I was in sixth form doing art. But yes, one of her pieces is actually up here, The End of Love 2024. And then My Bed on a Postcard is over here. Yeah, she's really good at what she does. And I love it. I love it. Anyway, I went to the exhibition on my own, and I came out and I was like, I was giddy. I was laughing. I was like, yeah. And it was so good to have that feeling by myself, to experience it by myself, to just have that experience of going through the exhibition and then come out and be like, yeah, that was good. And it was nice that I didn't have a man there. It was nice that I didn't have like a boyfriend there, because it was for me and it was what I wanted to do. And, I could choose what piece of art I wanted to look at. I could go around twice, you know? I could stay in there for 3 hours. It was completely up to me. The whole day was up to me. I could do whatever I wanted. And it was such a nice feeling. And then I went around London, went around the city centre, and I went back to my hotel, and I started feeling quite lonely again. And then the next day, I wrote a really interesting paragraph about this. The next day, I was going home. So I stayed there for like one whole day, but it was like 2 nights, 3 days sort of thing. And I remember like I woke up and I was so fine. I wasn't lonely at all. I wasn't sad. I was just like, yeah, I feel good. Like, And the reason why I felt good, and I only recognized this when I was writing my paragraph. I'll read the paragraph. I went back to the hotel, went to sleep, and woke up the next day to go home. Funnily enough, the last day was the day I felt the least lonely. I felt so free. My body knew I was going home. I had done it. I completed the test. I spent a weekend in one of the busiest cities in the world where people are everywhere, all by myself. It's like in a video game when you reach the next level. You have reached a higher self, a higher vibrational way of being. I only realized why I felt so good when I was leaving is because I was like, I had done this all by myself. I didn't go home, I didn't give up. And yes, I felt lonely, and maybe I would have enjoyed it more with a friend or with a partner, but I did it. I got over it. I spent some time by myself where I couldn't just go back home or I couldn't just give up. I stayed and I got through it, and that's the experience and the feeling that you should really hold on to is, being single is really hard. I feel like it's getting harder because every time I open up TikTok, I get dating app adverts, and then I have TikToks of, women going on dates, and then I have Instagram reels of people saying the dating market is a nightmare, and it's called a dating market, and it's so open now. We talk about love being so much easier in the 1960s because you could just send a girl a letter. There was no texting. Nothing was as easy as easy as accept. Oh, as easy accept as accessible as it is now because everything is at your fingertips, and you had to work to find love you know in the olden days. But I kind of feel like we've done this to ourselves. We've made these apps, we've made, you know, this society of dating and, going through people like their products. And we want things so quickly now. We want things like now, I order my Tesco food shop and I get it in the space of 20 minutes. Everything down to dating, down to human beings being in love is quick. It's fast. It's ooh. And I think I've gone on a big tangent here, but what I'm trying to say is it's okay to be single. It's okay to be on your own. And it's okay to, you know, just be by yourself for a while. And I want to be by myself. I want to break this pattern and enjoy my life with just me in it, because I can settle down with someone in 2 years, I can settle down with someone tomorrow, but I want to learn how to look after myself and how to create a safe space for myself in my body without giving that job to a man or to a partner, and learning how to calm my own nervous system, learning how to process the death of my dad just by myself. And I will get so much strength from that. I will get so much knowledge from that. And yeah, my throat hurts because I've spoken all day. Ah. I feel like I go off on so many tangents in these podcasts, these episodes. So I hope everything I do say, I hope you can take a piece of what I've said and just, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Um, I'm hoping to have a guest on my podcast in the next episode. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but yeah, it's gonna be good. Okay, speak soon. Love ya.